When I booked my first European cruise, I thought I had it all figured out. I'd done a few in the Caribbean, so how different could it be, right? Well, I was wrong. From jet lag fails to rookie money mistakes, I learned the hard way that cruising in Europe plays by different rules. And trust me, I saw a lot of other Americans making the same slip-ups. So if you're headed across the Atlantic, here are 11 mistakes Americans always get wrong when cruising in Europe, and how to avoid them. 1. Showing up jet-lagged and unprepared. This one hit me hard. On my first European cruise, I flew into Rome the night before embarkation thinking I was being efficient. But instead of excitement, I spent the first 2 days feeling groggy, disoriented, and borderline useless. Jet lag is no joke, and Europe's 6 to 9 hour time difference messes with your internal clock a lot more than you might think. A lot of Americans underestimate just how long it takes to adjust. Even if you sleep on the flight, I did not, your body still needs time to sync with the local time zone. And if your cruise is packed with port days, you'll feel rushed from the moment you board. My advice? Get there 2 nights before your cruise leaves. Not only do you give yourself a buffer for flight delays or lose some luggage, but you also get to enjoy the city you're flying into. Rome, Barcelona, Athens, before the cruise even begins. You'll board feeling fresh, acclimated, and actually ready to explore. Trust me, those extra 48 hours make a huge difference. You'll thank yourself when you're not nodding off at the dinner table or struggling to keep your eyes open during your first shore excursion. 2. Assuming everyone speaks English. I used to think it's Europe, everyone speaks at least a little English, and while that's kind of true in most tourist-heavy places, going in with that mindset is not just lazy, it's a bit disrespectful. This is what I learned. The locals do speak English, but how they treat you often depends on whether or not you tried to greet them in their own language. In Paris, I noticed a big difference in attitude when I started conversations with a simple bonjour instead of going into straight English. Same in Spain. Hola or gracias, they go a long way. You don't have to be fluent, just knowing how to say hello or thank you and do you speak English in the local language is enough to at least show you're trying, and that effort changes everything. People are more helpful, more patient, and far less likely to give you the eye roll. So before you take your cruise, take 10 minutes to learn basic greetings for the countries on your itinerary. Whether it's ciao in Italy, tak in Norway, or danke in German, that small step makes you stand out as a respectful traveler, not an entitled tourist. And no, your American accent doesn't ruin it. Most locals find it charming that you're trying it all. Before we continue, if you do find these tips helpful, give us a subscribe and a thumbs up. It helps us keep the lights on around here. Now, back to the video. 3. Overpacking like it's a Caribbean cruise. Packing for a European cruise is a bit different of a beast than heading to the Caribbean. The first time I cruised through Europe, I made the mistake of packing like I was headed to St. Thomas. Flip-flops, beach gear, and way too many outfit changes. Big mistake. In Europe, you're going to be walking. A lot. Like miles of walking through cobblestone streets, uneven sidewalks, hills, and historic staircases. Flip-flops? Useless. I ended up buying a decent pair of walking shoes mid-trip and wishing I had just brought my sneakers from the start. Another thing Americans get wrong is overpacking formal wear. Unlike some Caribbean cruises, most European cruises are more relaxed when it comes to dress code. You won't need a tux or a ball gown, and the hotel rooms in Europe, they're small. Cruise cabins, even smaller. Lugging around 3 bags for a 1-week cruise is just going to stress you out. Also, don't forget, many European hotels and even Airbnbs have tiny elevators or none at all. Try hauling your 50-pound roller up 4 flights of stairs in Venice. I've been there. It's not fun. Pack light, pack smart, and focus on layers of comfort. 1 versatile pair of shoes, 1 semi-formal outfit, and clothes you can rewear are better than hauling around your entire closet. 4. Tipping like you're in the US. Tipping culture in Europe is different. Okay, I'll admit, this one took me a while to get used to. In the US, we're tipping 15 to 20% without even thinking, so naturally, I went out to dinner in Barcelona and left a $10 tip on a $40 meal. The waiter looked confused and slightly amused. In most European countries, tipping isn't expected the way it is in America. Often, the service charge is already included in the bill. In places like France or Italy, rounding up a couple euros or leaving small change is totally acceptable. In others, it might be considered awkward if you leave too much. On cruise ships, of course, gratuities are usually prepaid or added to your onboard account, so that's different. And when you're in port, eating at restaurants, getting a taxi, or buying coffee, you're going to need to adjust your expectations. The trick is to know the customs of each country you're visiting. For example, in Austria and Germany, rounding up is common. Spain, 5 to 10% is more than enough. And in Scandinavia, tipping is rare and not expected. Save your money, avoid weird looks by tipping like a local. A quick Google search before you disembark can save you from over-tipping or being unintentionally rude. 5. Booking expensive bus tours you don't need. I've done it. You see Scenic City Highlights Tour, $89 on the cruise planner, and think, that sounds great, let's book it and not worry about anything. But once I stepped off the ship in Copenhagen, I realized the metro was right there, easy to use, and cheaper than a sandwich on board. Here's the deal. In most European cruise ports, the city is either walkable or well-connected by public transport. Booking a big bus tour with 40 other people, you're locking yourself into a slow-paced, overpriced, follow-the-flag kind of experience, and you're paying a premium for it. Of course, there are expectations. If the port is far from the main city, like Civitavecchia for Rome, you'll need transport. But for places like Oslo, Rotterdam, even Amsterdam, you can explore solo with a map and some confidence. Plus, going it alone lets you explore at your own pace. Want to linger at a cafe? Go for it. Want to ditch the museum and hop on a canal tour instead? Totally your call. And if you're nervous about missing the ship, just set an alarm, keep an eye on time, and stick to well-trodden routes. You're going to be fine. Skip the overpriced bus tour and do Europe your way. 6. Not trying local food because it looks weird. If there's one thing I regret from my first European cruise, it's how many incredible meals I skipped just because I was playing it safe. I remember being in Marseille, looking at a steaming bowl of bouillabaisse and thinking, nah, I'll just grab a sandwich. And honestly, I missed out. Too many Americans stick to what they know, burgers, fries, and maybe some pizza. But Europe has some phenomenal local cuisine, and cruising gives you the chance to sample different cultures almost daily. You don't have to dive straight into fermented herring or blood sausage if that's not your thing. But trying even one traditional dish in each port makes your trip 10 times more memorable. Here's what helped me. Asking servers for local recommendations that weren't too out there. Most are thrilled to help you ease into the cuisine. You'll find that dishes like paella in Spain, fresh pasta in Italy are delicious and approachable. Cruise ships have familiar options on board, sure, but if you're always eating the same stuff, why even fly across the ocean? Lean into the adventure. Worst case, you don't love it. Best case, you discover something amazing that you never would have tried back home. 7. Wasting money on currency exchanges. Before my first cruise, I went into my bank and exchanged a few $100s for euros just in case. I even paid fees at the airport to top up before we docked in Italy. Looking back, that was a total waste of money. Europe is practically cashless these days. Whether I'm buying a souvenir in Amsterdam, pastries in Paris, or buying a public bathroom in Oslo, yeah, that is a thing, everyone takes cards, especially tap to pay. Even street vendors had contactless readers. I don't use half the cash I bought, and converting it back at the end just means losing more in fees. Here's what works better. Bring a credit card with no foreign transaction fees and use that for everything. And when you're asked if you want to pay in dollars or local currency, always choose the local currency. It avoids the hidden exchange markups. And if you do need cash, say for a small museum or a busker, use a local ATM. That'll give you a better rate than the airport booths or hotel desks. So skip the money exchange encounters. You'll save time, cash, and frustration going digital. Europe's ahead of the game here. No need to lug around bills and coins like it's 2005. 8. Expecting American cruise traditions. On my first European cruise, I packed for lobster night, brought my best formal wear, and expected to have the same vibe I've had on Caribbean sailings. Nope. Within 2 days, I realized European cruises do it a bit differently, and if you don't reset your expectations, you're going to be either confused or disappointed. First off, no lobster night. That's usually reserved for cruises in the Caribbean that are 6 nights or longer with a formal second night. In Europe, sourcing lobster is trickier and costlier, so ships often swap it out for shrimp or something similar. Second, dress codes are more relaxed. People do dress nicely, but it's more smart casual chic than tuxedo and ball gown. Plus, Europeans tend to be a bit more understated, so you might feel a bit overdressed if you go full-on gala. Also, don't expect your usual ice-cold AC. Some cruise ships, especially the older ones, just don't blast AC the way we're used to in the States. And in port cities, even hotels and restaurants sometimes feel warm by comparison. It's not a downgrade, it's just different. Once you stop expecting an American experience and embrace the quirks of a European sailing, you'll start enjoying it a lot more. Adjust your mindset, not just your packing list. 9. Not factoring in daylight hours. The first time I cruised through Northern Europe in the summer, I was totally thrown off by how light it stayed outside. I'd be walking the deck at 10:30 and the sky would look like it was only 7 p.m. My brain just couldn't keep up. Northern Europe, especially places like Norway, Sweden, and even the UK, can experience crazy long daylight hours in the summer. Sometimes it doesn't fully get dark at all, and unless you plan for it, it's going to mess with your sleep. One night, I woke up thinking I overslept, sun pouring through the curtains, and it was only 4:45 a.m. If you are a light sleeper like me, bring the eye mask, melatonin, and even blackout curtain clips. And don't rely on your body to tell you when to sleep. Set alarms or use the ship's schedule to stay on track. It also means you'll have longer, brighter evenings for exploring, great for port days or evening strolls on deck. Just know your body clock won't be your best guide here. And if you're traveling with kids, definitely prep them for the weirdness. Otherwise, they'll be bouncing off the walls when it's still bright outside at bedtime. Europe's long days are beautiful, but you gotta manage them right or they'll manage you. 10. Skipping pre- or post-cruise travel. If you're flying all the way to Europe just to hop on a cruise and head back home the moment it ends, you're doing it wrong. One of the biggest mistakes I see Americans make is treating a Europe cruise like it's a quick trip to the Bahamas. Flights to Europe are not cheap, and if you're already dealing with jet lag and time zone adjustments, why not make the most of it? I used to fly in the day before my cruise and leave the same day it ended, but now I always add a couple days on both sides. Before the cruise, it helps me adjust to the local time, explore the city, and not stress about flight delays. And after the cruise, it's a chance to relax and really soak in the vibe before heading home. Cities like Athens, Rome, Barcelona, even Amsterdam have so much to offer. You're already there. Don't waste it rushing to an airport in a panic. Spend 2 or 3 nights exploring, grab some gelato, visit a museum, and get a little lost in the side streets. You'll come home with way more than just cruise memories. If you're paying that airfare anyway, stretch your trip. You'll thank yourself later. 11. Not researching the ports ahead of time. I'll admit it, I used to show up in port with no plan. Let's just see what's around, I'd say. That worked fine in places like the Bahamas or Cozumel, but in Europe, that's how you end up 45 minutes from the Colosseum with no clue how to get there. European ports often dock far from the main attractions. For example, in Rome, your ship docks in Civitavecchia, which is about 90 minutes from the city center. Same for Florence, Paris, even Athens. If you don't research transport options ahead of time, you'll burn precious hours just figuring out how to get anywhere. Before each port, I now do a quick Google search. Where does the ship dock? What's nearby? Is public transport available? Do I need to book a tour or can I walk in myself? Even just knowing the local currency, what attractions are closed that day, or where to eat can turn a chaotic day into a perfect one. You don't need a detailed minute-by-minute itinerary, but have a plan. Know what to do, how to get there, and how long it'll take. Because in Europe, winging it can mean missing the best part of the city, or worse, missing the ship. And honestly, that last one saved me the most stress. Just spending 10 minutes reading up on each port before you go, total game changer. Anyway, if this helped you dodge even one of these mistakes, give it a like. It really helps. And if you're planning your first cruise or your 10th, I got more coming that you don't want to miss. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bon voyage!